Something fundamental is changing in how people are living and working in Dhaka. I mean, we're talking about a massive shift in the real estate market. It's moving away from a model that's been around for decades towards something faster, way more flexible, and honestly, just built for the world we live in now. Okay, let's dive right in. So, it really starts with a simple, almost strange question, right? Why has everyone in Dhaka, all of a sudden, kind of stopped buying furniture? I mean, when you move into a new apartment or an office, you used to buy stuff. Not so much anymore. So what is driving this huge citywide change in how we're all behaving? Well, the answer is just as direct. This is not a temporary trend. It's not some small fad that's going to disappear next year. The market has changed forever. It's a permanent structural transformation. What used to be the absolute norm is now becoming the exception. Okay, to really get how big of a deal this is, we need to rewind the clock just a little bit. Let's take a look at what the real estate world in Dhaka looks like just a few years ago. Before 2020, the way things were. Back then, furnished places were, well, a really tiny niche market. Seriously, they were almost exclusively for a very specific type of person. Expats on a temporary assignment, maybe some international consultants or diplomatic staff. Basically, people who needed a ready-made home for a short, limited time. So, you gotta ask, why wasn't everyone doing this? Well, the old model had some pretty serious drawbacks. For starters, it took a huge upfront investment from landlords, which, of course, made the rent super high. Plus, the leases were so rigid. You were often locked in for 1, 2, even 3 years. And honestly, the workforce just wasn't as mobile back then. So the average person or a new business, they just didn't need that kind of flexibility. And this quote from our source material, it just perfectly sums up how people felt back then. A furnished space wasn't seen as a practical choice at all. It was a luxury. It was something out of reach. And for most people, just totally unnecessary. And then, everything changed. That period between 2020 and 2021, wow. It wasn't just a global crisis. For Dhaka's real estate market, it was the catalyst. It was the turning point that basically crammed a decade's worth of change into just a couple of years. Now, what's so cool about this slide is how clearly it maps out the whole evolution. See here, in the early stage from 2015, demand was pretty low, right? But then look at the transition phase in 2020, 2021. Remote work kicks in and bam, suddenly the demand for furnished apartments starts to climb. That was the pivot. So here's the really crucial point. That sudden shift to remote work, it forced a massive citywide rethink. People and companies all started asking themselves, why are we signing these long leases? Why are we paying these huge upfront costs when we have no idea what next month looks like? And just like that, flexibility went from being a nice-to-have luxury to an absolute must-have. All right, so let's see how that pivot created the market we're all living in today. It kicked off a boom, really, and established a whole new normal for how Dhaka lives and works. This comparison chart pretty much tells the whole story. Just look at the move-in time. For a furnished place, you're in within 1 to 3 days. Unfurnished, you're looking at 3 to 6 weeks. And the initial cost? Low versus high. Flexibility, high versus low. I mean, for anyone living a fast-paced urban life today, the choice is becoming a real no-brainer. Yeah, on the apartment side, the appeal is crystal clear. You can move in almost immediately, and you don't have to shell out a ton of money up front. You're not locked into these crazy long contracts anymore. It's just perfect for urban professionals, for young families, really for anyone who just wants their life to be convenient and agile. And guess what? It is the exact same story for businesses. Furnished offices are basically a plug-and-play solution. Startups, freelancers, you can get to work on day one without sinking a ton of cash into setup. Need to scale up or scale down? It's super simple. Plus, all the amenities are usually managed for you. It's all about being efficient. And here you go. This is the visual proof of that boom. These charts show the demand growth, and I mean, the trend is just undeniable. Look at that steep upward climb from 2019 onwards for both apartments and offices. The market is practically screaming at us. And hey, this isn't just some abstract data on a chart. You can see it in the real world. Just do a quick search on major platforms like banglamart.com or hotels.com BD. You'll see an absolute explosion of listings for furnished properties. The supply is clearly scrambling to keep up with this incredible new demand. So, where is all of this heading? Let me tell you, this is not a trend that's about to peak and fizzle out. Nope. All the projections show it's really only just getting started. The future of real estate in Dhaka, in a word, is flexible. This table here gives us a little peek into the next 5 or 6 years. And what does it show? Demand for both furnished apartments and offices is projected to make another massive jump. We're talking about hybrid workspaces becoming the default setting, the standard model, not the alternative. But let's just pull out one number from all this because it is absolutely staggering. We're looking at a projected growth of up to 55%, that's plus 55% in demand for furnished office space by 2030. That is a monumental shift. It's a clear signal that the way businesses operate is changing, fundamentally and for good. So what does this all mean for the big picture? Well, a few things. First, that traditional old-school model focused on ownership, it's going to keep losing ground. Second, the market is going to be dominated by this flexible, pay-for-what-you-use kind of real estate. And third, technology is going to get woven into all of this even more, making these spaces smarter and way more convenient. And this final quote, it really gets to the absolute heart of it all. This whole shift, it's not really about furniture, is it? It's about aligning with how we live and work today. It's about efficiency, convenience, and being able to adapt on the fly. Which leaves us with one final and, I think, pretty provocative question to chew on. In a city like Dhaka that's moving faster than ever, have we actually reached the point where flexibility is now more valuable than ownership? Is access to the new owning? Definitely something to think about.